Hello and welcome to the first Raw of the season, podcasting to you from my field here in beautiful nighttime rural Ireland. I'm Trev Downey. And of course, joining me to give their immediate reactions to the crazy town match that was Liverpool 4, Bournemouth 2 are Dave Hendrick and Karl Matchett. We have the boys back in town. It's nice to have everyone together. Dave, we'll start with you very briefly. Carl, Guy, and I have said that it was hard on the old tickers, that one just the mics going live. A little bit unnecessarily dramatic. Plenty of issues and things to talk about by way of positive and negative. But, a lovely, lovely thing to be able to underline the start of the season in that way with a win.
Oh, 100%. And the win is all that really matters tonight. It felt to me in the first half as if maybe some of the emotion of what had taken place before the game had sort of overcome some of the players. They weren't playing at the usual level. It felt like one of the new boys in particular was a little bit overawed by the fact he was making his debut for the club at Anfield, and he had a bit of a shocker. And we felt a little bit disjointed, which is normal when you're parachuting four new starters into a team. But ultimately, we played some decent football. We go ahead, we go further ahead, and then we have a little bit of a capitulation. But I just think it's kind of ironic that we've spent all this money this summer and we've signed a whole bunch of players that everybody's very excited about, and rightly so. And yet it's the one signing from last summer who is the hero of the night.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't be happier for him because it's a fucking brilliant goal. It's not a simple tap in. He has to readjust his body. And his song is one of the best we've got going. So it was great to hear it and see how happy he was. And ultimately we get the 3 points and we move on, and your Reds are top of the league.
Yeah, and that's literally all there is to it. We will, of course, though, this is the nature of this show, try to poke it apart a little bit, of course. But Carl, just to bring you in really early, getting the first 3 points of the season on the board seemed like the only task that had any merit at all. But as Dave says, there were complications, there were new boys settling in. There was a huge, huge excess of emotion with the night that was in Anfield. And it did seem to go flat. Having gotten our noses ahead by 2 goals, it did seem to go flat. And a lot of those things we were worried about in pre-season with openness. I mean, the concession of, I think it was their second goal. I was actually comical. It was like a kids match. We had like basically 8 of our lads upfield and they just broke. And he could literally run all the way through the center of the pitch. And our centre halves did the job for him. Well, one of them certainly did, and fire straight down the center of the goal. And, if you were looking for a little bit of a metaphor of some of the issues that need to get put right, that was it in around the concession of that. But, again, as we said, the drama comes in the positive way at the end. And really, we will say loads about the game, but those 3 points are really, really important to get our campaign started.
Yeah, 100%. I think a lot that we are going to speak about tonight is going to be, prefaced by the fact that we won. We will refer to that over and over again. We won, and that is the main thing, and that is ultimately the only important thing in terms of the outcome of the game. But by God, I think both of you are being a little bit kind to some of that center of the park showing. I don't just mean midfield; I do mean the center of the park. It's there's a few bits to work on there. And don't let our listeners think for 1 second that we're going to escape notion or mention of the fact that clearly Premier League referees didn't have a pre-season, so theirs starts now.
Yes, Premier League referees, especially the lads who are sitting on the glorious, glorious technology, which is supposed to help them and clearly does not. We'll get straight into it because hopefully people will be okay with the fact that we might keep this one a little bit briefer than our usual rambles, but we'll see how we go. A Liverpool start tonight with Alisson, Frimpong, Konate, Van Dijk and Kirkez, with McAllister, Szoboszlai and Wirtz, Salah, Gakpo and Ekitike. On the bench, ironically, after all the great expenditure of cash, we look a little thin, and I think we're all aware that things need to be addressed there. Mamardashvili, Gomez, Endo, Chiesa, Jones, Elliott, Robertson, Nioni, and Gamoa. Now, I'm not saying there's any bad players there. I'm saying we are kind of short there when it looked late on that we needed to bring on someone who could change the game. Who could have known that it would be little Fede who'd do the job? Bournemouth started with Petrovic. They had Smith, Ekitike, Senesi, Trufer making his Premier League debut. Adams, Scott, Brooks, Tavernier, Semenyo, and Evan Nielsen on their bench. They had Dennis Araujo, they had Soler, Junior Krupi, who came on, Hill and Traore, who came on, Billing, Winterburn, who came on, and Reece Stoughton as well. And as you said, Anthony Taylor was the mank in charge for the night. A lot of people blaming Anthony Taylor for that VAR decision, which we'll get to, but theoretically, it's the guy who's looking at it who's really at fault there. Anthony did plenty of things of his own that we can give out to him about. But let's get straight into our usual there, and I just want to have a word from both of you on Bournemouth, because we'll get lots and lots of talk about Liverpool. But they were, Dave, pretty much, they got a good old hacking in terms of their personnel. And they could expect, I think, to maybe rock up on the night that was in it as well against the defending champions and think, what do you expect us to do here? And I was very, very impressed by their attitude from the off. I thought they were really, really front foot, really aggressive, right up in our faces. And some of our lads who are a little bit all over the place, I'm thinking one particular French centre half of ours who did not have his best night, were put under pressure, and they were looking to take advantage of any slips that we made, and there were some.
Yeah, look, it's the easiest game in the world for them tonight, though, because there's no expectation on them. If they get hammered, they lost 3 of their starting defenders in the summer. And they're also missing 2 or 3 other starters through injury tonight. Actually, 3. Kluivert, Cook, and Christie all start for them. So there's no expectation on them. So it's a free hit completely. And they've got one of the best managers in the league. So he's going to have them well drilled. He's going to have them organised. And he's going to get the effort and the drive out of them. And if we bash them, nobody criticises them. But if they get anything from the game, it's an enormous bonus. So I was really impressed with them, as I always am when I watch an Iraola team. I thought Semenyo caused our lads absolute nightmares. Poor old Milos Kerkez. I mean, you said Konate had a mare, and he did. But Milos Kerkez had one of the worst games you're going to see anybody have for us this season. And that was in large part because of Semenyo, and he caused not just Kerkez problems, but he rinsed Robbo. He caused Ibu problems. He caused Virgil problems. He went across to left wing at times and caused us problems from there. And he just happens to have a Rory Delap throw in his locker as well. You can see why there's a lot of clubs that hold a strong interest in him. You can see why they're desperate to keep hold of him. He's a very, very good footballer, but he's in a team of good footballers. Like me and Carl talked about this on Scouted, even with Kluivert out and even with Christie out and Cook out, they're still putting good players on the pitch, with the lone exception of Adam Smith at right back, who should just be very thankful that Cody, goal aside, didn't have a particularly good game. And Adam Smith was able to survive that game. Like, we should have been targeting him, but unfortunately we just don't have a left winger who can isolate in a fullback and rinse them. But other than that, the rest of that team are very, very good. I mean, Ekitike arrived in the country 3 days ago. He's had, I think, 1 training session with the team, and he looked like he'd been there for ages. And that's in part because they identify talent really well, and it's in part because the manager just gives them really good instruction and sets them up really well. And at some point, some club is going to make a really smart decision and say, you know what, I'm not going to go for a big name. I'm going to go and take Andoni Iraola to my Champions League level club, and I think he's going to win major trophies somewhere.
I think that's a really good shout, and Carl, that's why I want to get your take on Bournemouth as well, and maybe just with a view to how you see them doing, because as Dave said, there's some people to fall back into the mix there. depending on their individual timelines. And they're only going to get, you would imagine, especially new boys who impress tonight, like the Ekitike, they're only going to get better, you would have thought. A lot of people, when they saw the apparent damage to the back line, especially, they were worried that Bournemouth might have a shocker. But it does really seem that there's a lot of truth to what Dave's saying there. This guy who, anyone who's sort of halfway interested in football will know that he's good. He does seem to be particularly good, and he really has them set up attitudinally, positionally, all of those things in the correct fashion.
Yeah, I think one of the last things you mentioned there, the mental side of the game, that he has them absolutely geared into the fact that you might not dominate the entire match, but you will be in the match until the whistle goes at the end of the game. And one way or another, you're gonna find yourself opportunities to get into the game. You're gonna find yourselves with moments where you can dominate spells of possession and just have the faith in yourself, really, that you are going to be able to make that count in key parts of the game. We saw it over and over last season where they were really good late on in matches, where they won points late on in matches, where they scored winners late in games. I really like the sort of rotation of options that they have in that sort of attacking line behind the centre forward. Like Dave said, we spoke about that a number of times. I presume they'll bring in another centre back, but Jack Eates did pretty well, I think, tonight for a debut. So nice, fortunate man to play as many minutes as he did. Let's just leave it at that for now. I think aside from Smith, the only one I really didn't think was particularly good tonight was George Petrovic in goal. Possibly, let's just put that down to a first game or up against the quality of forwards that he was. But I wasn't overly enthralled by some of the fists and palms and non-saves at all that he made.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and we'll certainly get to that. Let's get into the details of the game. And Dave, I'll take it up as far as the VAR incident with yourself. There was some really good early signs by our two new boys, Wirtz and Ekitike, looking like they have got this sort of natural understanding. There was an early dig by Hugo, 2 minutes in, low at the keeper, nothing much. But there was a lovely link between the two lads on about the 3-minute mark. Just beautiful. All to do with the delicate touch of Ekitike that I think is a lovely surprise to some people who just saw him as a beanpole and heard, hit and miss stories about whether he'd be good or not. The technique of this kid is very impressive. On 3 minutes, Mo cut in, hit a really good dig that was saved and led to a corner. We did a little near post corner routine, which I haven't seen for many a moon. The play broke down and then continued, and it led to a chance again. This time Mo with an in-swinging cross from that right-hand side, and Virgil headed it over. On 6 minutes, they are in with a little bit of a chance. True fair, back post cross, Semenyo's there. He should score. He gets in ahead of Kirkes, which was, as you said earlier on, the story of the night for our new boy. He did have a bit of a mare. There's no two ways about it. It's a good chance. They should do better. Semenyo does him again a few minutes later, but Virgil covers his arse for him, goes out for a corner, and Evan Nielsen has a flick on that's headed away by Dom Szoboszlai, who was incredibly busy in all the right ways all night, I thought. Corner for us on 10, from which nothing happened. And then on 13 minutes, and this is where we're going to pause, you can talk about anything that's happened up to now or this for a start if you want. This is the handball by Senesi, and somehow ends up with a free to them. I do understand the idea of was it a goal scoring chance or not, but I think that's all smoke, and that the fire is the actual incident of the handball. How you can, with repeated viewings and angles, look at that, and because for a while they were trying to gaslight us into thinking that it was the first. They were passed by his upper arm, that they were trying to, is it, well, character, of course, company man that he is. There's nothing in that. There's nothing in that. And then you get to see it. And then you get to see that the ball goes, or the hand goes to the ball. It's flick. If someone did that in NBA, you'd be, lauding them for a nice little intercepting touch. I don't understand it. I don't understand what the take was. Maybe start there and work your way back if you don't mind, Dave.
Yeah, it's a blatant red card. It's a blatant red card, and what Hawk Tua boy has to say on Sky is merely the company line. because Sky don't want the spectacle of the first game of the season to be that Bournemouth have a man sent off that early in the game. The Premier League don't want the narrative to be, oh, there's Liverpool getting, a favourable decision early in the season. But the fact of it is a blatant, deliberate handball, and it denies a goal-scoring opportunity because Hugo is going to control that and he's going to knock it past Senesi. And once he is goal side in a central area, it doesn't matter how far out from goal he is. Once he is goal side in a central area behind the last man, it is a goal-scoring opportunity. And that is what's been taken away. And I think, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if we hear that they actually looked at the first incident and cleared it and didn't look at the second one.
How did the game restart with a free kick to them? Explain that one to me.
So when Senesi slapped it down, it bounced off Hugo, and then Senesi flung a foot at it and cleared it, and Cody, who was coming up behind it and had the clearest view of anybody, went to catch the ball.
That's what they gave him for. Okay.
They gave a free kick against Cody for handball because he was trying to alert the referee's attention. Like, he was running, waving his arms in the air.
Right, the Reds, it's Jack here, and that was a clip from one of Anfield Index's audio podcasts. If you have enjoyed the video, make sure you do like, share and subscribe to keep up to date on all things LFC. We record around 100 audio podcasts every month, with our shows featuring match-going fans, top journalists, professional analysts and even Liverpool legends along the way, with the great Dane himself, Jan Molby, joining us every single week. If you want to listen to all our podcasts for free, head over to anfieldindex.com/podcasts. Our audio shows are available wherever you get your podcasts. Just search Anfield Index. Or if you prefer to listen to all our podcasts in full and without any ads, why not head over to AI Pro today to check it out now at AnfieldIndexPro.com. If you want to get involved in the great growing community of Liverpool fans, check out the Anfield Index Discord. The link is in the description. Do get involved with that from Reds around every corner of the globe. For now, Reds, hope you enjoyed this video.